So welcome to today's preview here on Clock in the Gallop. It is a Tuesday, the 12th of July. We're in the midst of winter, hence the beanie on Neil's part. I've got a scarf on, so I think you've also got a scarf on by the looks of things. So
I've got one layer, two layer, three layers plus a beanie. It's freezing.
But the main reason, Neil, and this is the old firm coming to you together today, that we've got you on, is because people wouldn't know this, but you've been in some absolutely sparkling form. Well, they would know from yesterday, because yesterday's price booster arrived. Mr. Pagal, thank you very much for that, because my form was a bit iffy since the July, and I got out of it with that. So thanks very much for the heads up on Mr. Pagal. But you've been in some nice little form in the last few days, picking up some nice price winners.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually haven't spoken publicly about my July, which was a disaster. You know, Robert Bloomberg had a disaster. He won't mind me saying that, but, you know, that's the nature of racing. You get it right sometimes you get it wrong. You must stick to your principles. But the only thing is, I knew I was wrong. I think I'd been saying publicly before that I'd backed a couple of horses, and I think I'm on the wrong ones. Unfortunately, that's what came to pass. I did get a message from Greg Ports the week before. He said to me, "Neil, stay the course." And I stayed the course. But I think Pomp and Power has got his issues. You know, a lot of them are a little bit like your man Kyrgios. They are self-inflicted. I mean, what was he doing on the weekend? Who was he shouting at? I mean, why does he? I mean, if he just concentrated on his tennis, he might have had a chance to win.
Told that one woman that was putting him off that she had more than 700 drinks or something like that. But, you know, Neil, it's all about psychology too. And funny enough, you pick up on that point, because I want to mention a conversation I had in passing with Sam Masia, who rides in the first race today, just about him being a veteran work rider. And it leads me into that quite nicely, because he said to me, "Nico, you have to see it in the jockey room beforehand. That's where you win the race." And I said, "What do you mean, Sam?" Now, he's old wily fox, okay? And he said, "You see the youngsters, they're on a fancied horse pacing up and down, and they're beaten before the gates open. They're beaten before the gates open," he says. So they may be 18 to 10 or 16 to 10, and then the nerves suddenly strike at it. Now, he said to me, "Nico, the race with Paul Peter last time out, there was their main work rider was riding the favorite, and Sam was on the lesser fancied of the two Paul Peter riders." And he said, he told Paul Peter, he said, look at him and look at me. What do you think is going to happen here?" And
brilliant.
He said, "That guy can't ride with me." I mean, I know a lot of these guys are very bullish on themselves, including Goodman Dadamasi. But Masia took me aside, Neil, and he actually mentioned this horse running today, funny enough, for Andrew Fortune, Ashley and Andrew Fortune. And he said to me, "You've won the race before the race, basically." And in this case, Djokovic, you know, with all Kyrgios's antics, Djokovic won that before it even started, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
I agree with you. He self-imploded. You're right. The wily old fox, no substitute for experience. Well, then getting on to racing, I mean, this has got to be, Sam Messia's got to be a certainty in the first, hasn't he? I mean, the only danger I thought was 4, and that's scratched.
So the scratching here is number 4, Captain's Consort. Well, strangely enough, Neil, the only other experienced work rider in the race that's of any value is Joe Gwangwiza, number 2, Flag Bearer. And I'm going to bring up that betting, because I made it a race between these guys. Here's the betting, by the way: 7 to 10 San Quintin and 28 to 10 Flag Bearer. And then right down at the bottom is I Am Who I Am at 3 to 1. But I thought, Neil, that San Quintin would probably be the horse to beat. It's a half brother to that horse Phoenix, who does so well now for the Alan Greefyard. But I thought that Flag Bearer had a chance. So for me, I'm not ruling out Joe Gwangwiza, because he is a solid work rider and he's won his fair share of races. So I think it's between 1 and 2. But Sam did give me quite a bit of confidence when I spoke to him. And this is about a week or so ago, when he said, "I'm riding one for Fortune next week, and I think it'll go close to winning."
Mm. Well, I'd agree with that. San Quentin. I mean, I liked it even before you told us that lovely story with Sam. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed when you said he just said to Paul, look at him and look at me.
Yeah. Yeah. He said.
Keenan Jansen, by the way, owns that, eh? Keenan Jansen and Greg Bortz. Look at the owners here, Mish.
Yeah, and we're speaking about Greg and that, and strangely enough, we're trying to get Greg on the show to do an interview with him, and I'm sure that'll come up shortly in the next week or so. Yeah, interesting bunch of owners there, and I did like it last time, but its effort petered out. So I think between 1 and 2, Neil. I'm not convinced that the one's a certainty, because I think the 2 will give it a bit of a run for its money.
Okay.
Let's move on to race number 2, and this is the start of the PA. It's a maiden juvenile plate for fillies over 1,000 meters. In race 2, no changes of significance to report on here. There's been money for the 1 who's having its first run in Joburg, a time to flower, from 5 to 2 basically into 18 to 10. So there's been money for that. Tayuba number 8 is 2 to 1, and number 6 Silver Winter is a 2 to 1. So really 3 joint favorites here. When you looked at this, did you have any preference for any one of those 3?
Yes, I probably was leaning towards Tayuba, but I want to start with number 1, Nico, because there has been money for a time to flower, and I can see why on form, 6th and then 2 good seconds. But this is 1,000 meters, and she's been campaigning over 1,000 meters. But I can't help but think when I look at her pedigree, I've sort of got a little Charles Fall in my ear, telling me, you know, it's a flower alley out of a dynasty mare. I mean, it's a very stout pedigree. So I know the reason I got Charles Fall in my mind is I think I might be wrong, she might win today, but I suspect that she will be in time to come more effective over ground. And when she does start performing well, he'll be sending me pedigree reports telling me, you see, they finally put her over the distance that she needed. So that was my thoughts there. I thought she's got a very stout pedigree, and she's been doing well over sprints, but to be fully effective, I think she probably needs a bit of ground. So as a result, I went for the sprint pedigrees, which are clearly the Water Winter and certainly the Vaal. The Vaar's a daughter of Vaar out of a Western Winter mare. So yeah, and Smungo's riding very well. It's the first time he gets on board. So I was leaning towards 8 over 6. And then the other one I will put in my quartet is number 2, Above the World, who's drifted in the betting. But was that the Snowbird Stakes she ran in last time? What is SB?
Stormbird Stakes.
Stormbird, right? Stormbird Stakes. I was close. I said Snowbird. Stormbird Stakes. But if you ignore that, which wasn't a bad run, she just petered out. She ran behind Sweet Pepper, who I know failed on July Day, but she's pretty useful, obviously, and Cool Winter. So yeah, I gave her a bit of a sneak.
Now I'm going to test you in your Mandarin. Number 3's pronunciation first and the meaning of it.
Well, looking at its mother, Master of My Fate had a close relative. A close relative probably means mother-in-law or something.
No, it means close relative. So it means close relative in Mandarin.
There you go. I was close then.
The exact translation is close relative in Mandarin, but how do you pronounce the name? Sorry. Sorry.
Yes.
Also. Sorry, what was that? Try it again.
I don't know.
Okay, it's pronounced Jin-chin. Jin-chin. Jin-chin.
Well, they say no gin, no chin.
Yeah. Jin-chin.
Listen, I mean, by the way, on Mandarin, I've been telling my kids, I don't know if anybody else is watching, I keep telling my wife and my kids, they got to learn Mandarin.
Yeah.
They've got to learn Mandarin. Never mind blinking other languages.
You see,
if they want to be effective in the next 40, 50 years of their lives, they have to learn Mandarin.
I grew up in Zimbabwe, and we had the choice between, can you believe it, growing up there in the 80s, we had the choice between French and Afrikaans, Neil. I mean, that was the choice. I mean, I find it hard to believe, but that was our choice. So I chose French.
Well, I know you. I was going to say I know you didn't choose Afrikaans because between you and Alistair, you couldn't string one Afrikaans word together.
Correct. I'm better in Mandarin than I'm in Afrikaans. But look, I chose French, but I'm coming to that same problem now in my elder son's life, because next year he has to choose between isiZulu and Afrikaans. I know what I would choose, knowing my age and that, but let's see what he chooses. Because ultimately his choice. But
only one winner there.
Yes.
There's only one winner. And it is he die selection.
Yeah. Neil, so let me come to my selection here before we move on to the third race. I was Silver Winter over to you, but reason is Muzieni. Muzi's ridden them both. Why would he go with Silver Winter and not Tayuba?
Good point. Good point. I didn't see that.
Yeah. So I was on the 6 ahead of the 8, trusting that Muzi's made the right call here.
Well spotted, Nico.
I agree with you with regard to number 1, by the way. I think it's too short for it. I'd like it over further.
Okay, just to complete that language conversation,
yes.
I know we've got a lot of Afrikaans followers, so I don't want to be dissing Afrikaans as a language. On the contrary, I mean, I actually enjoy Afrikaans as a language because I find it very descriptive. So when I engage with Nas or somebody, or Dennis, actually, our good friend at the Tote, he's very Afrikaans, so he's always sharing kind of things. But just the way the world's going, where the powerhouses are, right, in terms of languages. I mean, that's why I would suggest Mandarin if you've got any kids, The Chinese, my sister's just come back from New York and said, you can't believe how prominent China and Chinese is in America these days, So, learn Mandarin, boys.
Interesting discussion. Well, you've learned a bit today with Jin Chin in race 2.
Most relative.
On we go to race 3 is the maiden juvenile plate, start of the pick 6 1,000 meters. Let's just quickly update you on the scratchings here and the changes. And number 3, Kite Surfer's got blinkers on now. That's a change that's come through. Blinkers on Kite Surfer. That's the only change there. So Boisterous, Neil, is at 7 to 10, or basically just less than 7 to 10. The money's come for the favorite, Boisterous, 7 to 10. And then after that, it's 5 to 1, Lebanese Pound, number 4, and Trey Amici, number 8. And then a bit of money for the first time of the newcomer, number 9, Typeset, who shortened from 12s into 8 to 1. Did you think this horse was a 6, 7 to 10 chance, Boisterous?
When I first looked at it, Nico, because it was carded as number 1, I took an opinion. I thought, well, he's obviously a very nice horse. He's got a lovely pedigree, I must say, and very well bought, I thought, by our friend Willem Ackerman, who's a real character. And he's got a couple of horses now with Tyron Zaki. But I did make a note, 1,200 back to 1,000. So I thought, right, I wrote here, drop back to 1,000, not ideal. And then I carried on studying, boom, 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 boom. But eventually I came back and said, you know what, he really hasn't got much opposition, to be honest. And the way he ran his debut, he showed pace anyway. So it wasn't like he was a Silvano that dropped off the pace and came with a late rattle to run 3rd. He actually showed pace. So maybe the drop back to 1,000 isn't going to be as much of a negative. But again, pedigree-wise, we'll probably tell you that at some point in time, he's going to be more effective over longer trips. But he might just have enough pace and the run under his belt to win here. Whether I'd be rushing off to take the 7 to 10, I don't know. Lebanese Pound has been gelded, Nico, so that has to be factored in. So I'm sure he'll strip a fitter horse. And it is, after all, Paul Peter. I mean, crikey Moses. I mean, Paul Peter's going to win with stable cats, stable dogs. I mean, he's won everything. I mean, I'm right in saying he's broken the winning record.
No, he's on the cusp of it. I think he's got.
Oh, well, that's a certainty.
I think he's got 2 to go. It'll happen in the next day or 2.
It'll probably happen today. I mean, so
it could well.
I mean, I just quickly on that. So we're sort of getting off the points. We're talking all sorts of things, but that's what we do here. And some people might say, I get to the point, but we'd like to share opinions, and that's what racing's about. It's about opinion. So Nico, I just want to pause for a second and say to Paul Peter, some people, they have their say about him. One thing is for sure, that what he is doing, what he is achieving, is rewriting the history books. And all credit to him and his team. The work ethic is unbelievable. That's the first point. It doesn't happen without hard work. And second of all, I had a chat, Chlochlo and I actually bumped into Paul late at the cocktail party the Gold Circle put on Wednesday night. It was just the three of us. And I want to say that a more likable guy you will never come across. Very pleasant to Chlochlo. We spoke. He's quiet. He's, as Andrew Bond would say, self-effacing. So there's very little I could say against Paul Peter and the achievement and the success he's having. And good luck to them. Good luck to the owners. I mean, he's got a lot of horses, but he is producing on an incredible scale. And on top of that, Neil, a lot of big names in racing, a lot of people with a lot of horses have shifted over to him in recent times and continue to do that. I spoke to another big owner who shall remain unnamed that has told me that they have sent a number of horses to Paul Peter that you'll see stepping up for the Paul Peter stable in the coming weeks in the new season. So yes, I echo everything you've said there, Neil. Our history goes back a long way, since the days of Henry Higgins. I used to commentate on Henry Higgins, and I became a massive fan of Henry Higgins. And I remember those years ago, Paul, I've still got it as a huge picture of Henry Higgins that he gave. Yes, you've known him longer than me. I mean, I've obviously know him on paper, but I didn't have a relationship with him until relatively recently. But I know you've followed his career. Did he start with James Marie? Was he James Marie's assistant? Well, he started training with James, correct, and James helped him along the way. But I think it was even before that, Neil, that he was interested in training. But he's from when you look at the trajectory of numbers of winners since he started 8 years ago. It's unbelievable how many horses he's got and how he's delivered the winners. But he does have a massive team behind him, and I'm sure he'll be the first to admit that. But coming back to this race, I mean, you mentioned Lebanese Pound has been gelded. You can't underestimate the chances of Robbie Sage's horse here, Neil, Trey Amici, because you know as well as I do that Robbie Sage isn't the biggest stable in town. But his stable, Neil, is alight at the moment. There just has to be a spark of form, and they've got a chance. And Muzzy rides really well. This horse ran fourth behind Clean Living, who then went down to Durban and ran that feature race on July Day. I just believe that the difference in price between Boisterous and Trey Amici doesn't reflect the chances of the two against each other, and that is why I wouldn't be dashing to take 6 or 7 to 10 about Boisterous. I think Trey Amici will finish right on top of it. Nico, very quickly, I know Trey Amici is actually Italian. It's not French, but do you know what that means? It means 3 friends. Very good, very good. Are you one up on me, eh? Well done, 3 friends, yes. Which is interesting because there's actually 5 owners. So I don't know where, Larry Nestet must have bought 2 extra ones on board. So that's my take on the third race. Okay, let's move on to race 4. We'll try and keep it racing related for the rest of the show. Merit rated 80, handicap 1,000 meters. Changes in the 4th race. Let's have a quick look at the 4th. No real changes to take note of over here. Now, Drogier is 18 to 10 for the Peter stable, number 2. You've got Irfan's Boy coming for support. Was 6 to 1, now 9 to 2. So there's inspired support there. And Who's That Star for the Binder stable has attracted support from 8 to 1 into 6 to 1. And then you've got Midnight Badger at 6 to 1, and then 8 to 1, Samuel Salt and What a Tiger down at the bottom, the 2-year-old. This is quite open, Neil. Your thoughts on this race? Yeah, I do agree it's a bit open, but I'm leaning, I mean, I need you to rubber stamp it. We'll have that discussion later. I'm leaning towards an option of a price booster in this race, Nico. It won't be finalized because there might be some later on. I know that you and I like a few. But I quite liked Smunger's on Who's That Star here. He's only ridden the horse once, and for whatever reason that day, it lost many, many lengths. So I'm ignoring that run. But the drop back to 1,000, I think, is critical here. I'm going to ignore the 1,100 run behind Taken North, which wasn't desperate. I mean, it was behind Taken North. But I think that this is a possibility because he's only carrying 56 kilograms. So if I have a look at the direct runs with Drogier, he's got Drogier beaten Stone Cold and a couple of others. I mean, even he's got Samuel Salt, his stable companion, actually beaten, even though there's others in that race. So for me, I thought I was going to shortlist number 8 Store. Who's That Star as a potential price booster today. I respect Stormy Seas. Same story last time, and he's much better off than he was last time. There's a 4.5 kilogram swing with Samuel Saltish, but I'm just assuming that wasn't his best form. Edgar Town is a roughie I've been following for some time, but I don't know quite where he's at. He's dropped 60 merit points. He's been very disappointing, actually, Edgar Town. If I owned Edgar Town, I'd be really miffed because I think he's got potential, but he just doesn't put it in. And Irfan's Boy, I do respect, but it's drawn 1, and Sasibo, he does an okay job, but obviously he's a 4 kilogram claiming apprentice, so I'm not so sure how vigorous he'll be in the closing stages. No fault of his own. So for me, my roving bank here would be number 8, Who's That Star? And yourself?
So I'm leaning towards the bottom half of the card. I do agree. For me, 8 and 9, Neil, with the horses here. Who's That Star and Midnight Badger? I really like Midnight Badger. If you look at Muzieni again, his rides for Paul Peter, 40%, as much as that, run in the first 4. As much as that. So I thought for me, with a nice draw of 9 on the stand side, Midnight Badger represents a bit of value at 6 to 1. I don't think Droggy is an 18 to 10 chance.
No, that we agree on.
I don't like that at 18 to 10. Again, Irfan's Boy, I've got respect for because of the weight off its back, and it gets 4 kilos, so it comes in at 59.5. But like you, I'm leaning towards the bottom end, 8 and 9 for me. I thought that was sufficient to get through this leg. 1, and then after that, 2 and maybe 4, the stable companions to Midnight Badger. But I do like Midnight Badger there.
Okay, yeah, Nico and I on the same. You're right about Midnight Badger. If you go back to that Samuel Salt run on the 2nd of November, it's 4.5 kilograms better off for a quarter-length beating. So, yeah, I'd agree with that. I just don't know, Midnight Badger with 1,000 total.
Yeah.
But Muzzy's riding so well. He doesn't hang about. He gets on his bicycle. Nico, sorry, I know we said we're going to stick on racing things, and this is a racing matter, but you might know more than me. A lot of people coming up to me to the tote in the last 48 hours asking me about Warren Kennedy. I didn't see the fall. Apparently, it looked horrible. What is the latest on Warren? Is he okay? He hasn't ridden for a couple of days. Do you know?
No, I don't know the exact story. All I know is that because he was booked off when he fell, the 48-hour rule is enacted. So he has to sit out for 2 days, regardless of the injury sustained.
Is that a 48-hour? I thought it was a 24-hour rule. So 48-hour rule.
48-hour rule. So he had to get off when he fell. And then, he got off those mounts, I think, on Saturday. And then he was off Sunday, Monday. So he'd effectively be back today, but he's not riding today anyway.
No, so, I only know apparently it looked very bad. So we wish him all the best.
Yeah. He should be crowned champion jockey in 3 weeks' time anyway. But we do wish him all the best. So that's the news there. So that's race 4. Let's go on to the 5th race now, Neil, which is a merit-rated AT handicap over 2,000 meters. First leg of the second jackpot. Let's just update you here that no blinkers for number 1, Great Affair. Is the change over here. Great Affair, no blinkers. Pretty open, as the betting would suggest. Elusive Swan and Spin Doctor are the 2 favorites. But I thought, I studied this race for a long time. I came up with a different result each time I looked at it. I don't like this race, and I think it's a field race for me. You liked a bit of Banner Bridge, Neil, who's attracted some support from 8s to 6s.
I did, and I contacted Alistair this morning. And what did he say? He said the horse as well. Is part of it I can't quote, but he said, what did he say here? He's going to the Vaal today, but not necessarily for Barnard, but he's not working either, but he's got something else to do there. But he said, I'm quoting the part, he's doing very well and come out of his last race very well. So that was good to see. I think
he might be wanting the trip again, Neil. So he's been the 2,000 meters. My question mark was the distance, but in the early part of his career, you'll remember when he was still a maiden, he went this trip and it was looking for ground. So he might well be looking for ground, and they may have found the key to his winning ways again, because he's been running on each time, and he might just be wanting the 2,000 now.
I think that's true, Nico, but I think they found the right rider. Yeah. I mean, in my mind, hang on, let's just do one of these. In my mind, I think Keegan de Mello is riding so well, and he's just going to suit him because he's the kind of horse who doesn't need to be troubled early. Keegan sits, patiently. I think that it's a good booking. He's never ridden the horse before, so I thought, and he's only got 54 kilograms. He looks very well in. I think he will run a race. I'm not so sure. I mean, I hope he wins for Alistair. But I'm not so sure, he's a certainty to win. But I mean, having said that, he's 6-1, so you're not going to get hurt. So he would be my roving banker in the race. I do respect the bottom weight, number 8, Vengeance Forever, who's a Futura, going 2,000 out of a trippy mare. So I think that's probably what he's crying out for. But like you, Nico, I didn't trust the race. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, anything can win here, couldn't it?
I think so. And my rover was actually a horse like 5th of July, who's always on the premises as a roving banker. Diego de Gavea rides it really well. And he comes in, I know he comes in with 58.5 kilos, but he does receive a bit of weight from everything. But I wouldn't be surprised if anything won here. So I'm marking that as a field race on all my bets, Neil. I don't like the look of the race at all. Right, let's go on to the 6th race, which is a graduation plate over a mile. I'll just update the changes here. No tongue tie for the 4 Wolf's World, and Purple Panther race is unshod all round. By the way, there's an additional scratching, Neil, in race 2. It doesn't affect number 9, Tiny Dancer. Yacht Fisher scratches off its feed, and number 9, Tiny Dancer's out of race 2.
Okay. Don't worry, I had multiple lines through that already.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the betting here. 28-10, Ocean Warrior and Fast Love. They are joint favorites. 7-2 about Sir Michael, and 4-1 Barney's Pride. How did you see the 6th moving or going?
Well, I'm shocked. With my mouth open, I'm shocked. Because if I priced up this race, I would have had Ocean Warrior at even money. I'm actually shocked. Because in fact, if you had asked me, I would have said, well, the bookmakers will have this at odds on 9-10, 8-10, because it's a graduation. I mean, if you believe the merit ratings, now we don't want to go down that merit rating thing. And I've got to balance it out because the handicappers do a great job. The handicappers do a great job 98% of the time, but they're human. They make mistakes. So when I have a go at them, I'm not having a go at them because they're not doing a good job. I think they do a good job. I just think that obviously there's so many millions of horses out there, they're going to get a couple wrong. In this case, if you believe Ocean Warrior is a 98, and I think they're right, they might even be conservative with that, then he must be an absolute good thing. I mean, this is a graduation plate. He's a 98. The nearest thing to him, I think, is Fast Love, who's an 86. So I'm surprised to see him 28-10. I know, Nick, I like Fast Love as my second choice. You worried about him staying the trip.
Yes, I'm worried about the trip because the mother, Neil, weekend special was Brian and Kathy Finch's horse. And she was trained by Paul Matchett. She sprinted. I remember calling her. She sprinted. She was a 1,000-meter horse, maybe 1,200 at a push. Maybe
that's interesting because she was a daughter of Spectrum, who normally
she was a 1,200-meter horse at a push, Neil. So that's why I remember the mother quite strongly. And I think he's capable on his day, but up to this distance, 1,600 meters, maybe a little bit suspect along the way. Neil, might that not be a price booster then?
Well, yes, but I tend to, with price boosters, I'm always looking for horses that are, at least 5-1, like the winner yesterday. I don't like to go for. I don't like to go for favourites in the price boosters.
Look, I didn't like Barney's Pride, who normally we go for, and Sir Michael is having its second run in Joburg. I'd like to see a little bit more before I went for it. So I'm very much an Ocean Warriors camp here.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Look, it might be a possible price booster because I'm shocked to see it 28-10. I really am. I thought even money. 28-10 is a very nice price. Yeah. I mean, this horse has ran but before behind Waiting for Summer, who's a decent horse. Safe Passage ran 3rd in the July, needs no introduction. Litigation, that was the Igoli Mile. Then he won. Then he ran behind Naval Guard, who has a very high reputation, and they were trying to have a tilt to get into the July. And then he gave weight. He gave a kilogram to Blackthorn, Nico, and nearly beat him. Blackthorn's an older horse, stays all day, and is well handicapped, and he'll be going for the Gold Cup. The last run was probably not his best, but he's maybe the drop back to a mile will suit him. I'm shocked to see him 28 to 10. So maybe you're right. Maybe he's an option, Ocean Boy. He's clearly my first choice.
Same as me there. Okay, race 7. We've only got 6 minutes of show left, so we'll try and rush through the last two. Race 7's a merit rated 94 handicap. Scratch number 2, Savannah Storm. That's the change. It's 18 to 10 about 4 back to black, has been one of our perennial favorites here. 33 to 1, 33 to 10 Leopold, 4 to 1 Duke of Sussex, and Wafif, and 11 to 2. Well, Savannah Storm's now scratched. So your take on the 7th quickly?
Yeah, back to black. You're right. When he won and beat Iron Will, we labeled him as our best bet price booster. He arrived. We went for him again as a value for money play when he very nearly beat Al Matanu, who came out, of course, and won the big race in Grable. He was unlucky that day. And then we labeled him last time. We couldn't believe what a price we got, and he trotted up. But today, I don't like him. I mean, he can win, but he's carrying 58.5. I think he's vulnerable. So I'm going to try and beat him today with a whole bunch of different horses. In no particular, well, let me give you a particular order. I think the dangers are 5 Leopold, 7 Eskimo Pie, I think is quite a big price at 20 to 1. And even the one horse, Stormy Winter with Sasebo, Nico.
Yes. Yeah, one's a lovely looking horse, but he's been rested for 6.5 months, almost 7 months, Stormy Winter. That's against him. And he's coming in with 56 kilos. So, you know, you think about it, if you're coming in with 60 was a different story. Coming in with 56, I think he's got a bit of a chance. It throws him into the race. I thought that back to black Neil was vulnerable. I can't believe that it's that short. I wouldn't be taking 18 to 10 back to black here. But the Magnus stable isn't good form. Leopold Neil, I think, would probably end up being my rover.
Me too.
And then further down, you've got Duke of Sussex at 4 to 1, who comes from a poorish draw. Again, not the greatest of races to pick a winner there. As we move on to the last race of the day, which is a maiden handicap over 1,600 meters. And in the last race, you've got a tongue tie on number 7, Ships at Sea. No tongue tie for number 11, Always in Command. Now, I know why you're rubbing your hands, because when it comes to maiden handicaps, along the way, during the midst of lockdown, this is where we made some nice money on picking some horses, because people all automatically think it's a maiden. They revert to the form horses, which in this case are both Crawford horses, Chasing Mavericks and Global Approach, and they completely ignore the rest. So it's, you know, here you'd go 1 and 2 if you looked at the betting, and you'd completely ignore the rest. Now, you know, because I sent a message at some ungodly hour last night that I found a horse in this race that I like, and I'm going to put the money down on. But what do you like?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly as you summed it up. I mean, everybody's going to go 1 and 2. I mean, in this case, they very easily could run 2 and 1 because they are very consistent. Global Approach and Chasing Mavericks. I prefer the 2 over the 1 because it is a handicap, a maiden handicap. So Global Approach is getting as much as 2.5 kilograms from Chasing Mavericks. And I think that'll ensure, even though Smunger's booked on number 1 Chasing Mavericks, I think 2 will beat 1. But yes, they've got to carry 60 and 57.5, and they've got to ship a little bit of weight around. It's a golden opportunity, perhaps, particularly for Global Approach to get out. But the truth of the matter is that they have to give them, if you go down, not that I like it, but I'm just pointing it out, Always in Command, the 11, right? It's got Sasebo on. He can't claim his full 4, but he can claim 3. So Always in Command is carrying 49 kilograms. 49 kilograms. It's getting 11 kilograms from Chasing Mavericks. Now, that's bigger than the stretch, or bigger than what Jet Dark had to carry the bottom weight in the July. It's 11 kilograms. So it is a handicap. And as a result, bottom line, punters must think a little bit out of the box here. So Nico's going to tell you the horse that he likes. I value for money-wise, looking for number 3, Atlantic City, as a place bet. Because I think the last 3 runs have always been drawn poorly a couple of times. And also, I think 2,000 is probably too far for him, so the drop back in distance. But I've left you 2 minutes, Nico, to tell us what you like.
Neil, you know what? So in this race, you've got to know, right, at the front of it, that in order to structure a maiden handicap and to see what weights the horses are going to carry, they have to have a rating. Now, surprisingly, those ratings aren't published here. But if you know how to work them out, you know what rating they've been pegged at in order for them to be weighted the way they are. I just believe number 6, Summerland, Neil, is better than the rating that they've pegged it in at 55 kilos here. She's a daughter of Karari. I think she'll go the trip, no problem. She's got a good draw. I think on her 2-year-old form, I think it's a massive price, 10-1, Summerland, number 6. And therefore, that's my horse. But all of Cornet Species 2-year-olds have chances here. Streets of Siena, Summerland, even No Dream Too Big, and Marco van Rensburg at 50-1. So I'm playing this wide. I'm not at all affected or influenced by the betting of the top 2. I'm looking for them to be rolled.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there, Nico. I mean, we might be wrong. They might run 2 and 1, and because Brett Crawford and James are doing such a great job with them. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if 2 beat 1. But they do have that weight to carry because it's a maiden handicap. So, you know, value for money wise, we're shopping around a bit wider in that last. Nico, thanks. We got a minute left, so you can close.
We got less than a minute. Neil will be doing a price booster on his platforms. We are doing a Take a Bet show as well, which you can catch on this channel. But Neil, thanks so much. We'll catch up with you later in the week. Thanks for your input this morning.
Thanks, Nico.